Hey guys, so I wanted to come on here today and talk about trusting the signs. I just did a post about it too, but I wanted to come on and talk about it and go into it in a little bit more detail because it's something that's been coming up a lot for me lately, is just signs and synchronicities coming up everywhere, like left and right, and it's really fun, and it's really been deepening my whole journey, and literally everything is leading me to the next step, which is just opening and expanding everything for me in bigger and brighter and more beautiful ways. And I wanted to talk about that because it is really just so beautiful and astonishing to kind of watch it all unfold. And literally roses have been coming up a lot for me, and you can see my light in the reflection there, but I've had this rose behind me. This image spoke to me a while ago, and so I was like, oh, let me get that for my office. And the image of the rose has been coming up a lot for me lately. There's a lot of layers to my journey that I've been going on, and I'll get into all of them in more depth in future discussions and posts, because I've been doing a lot and going really, really deep and expanding even more and more, so it's really been exciting, and I've been deep in it, so I haven't shared all of it yet, but I plan to, because it's really been pretty profound. But the rose has been coming up a lot for me. And I actually did a channeling session, which to me a little while ago would have sounded super woo-woo, but I did a channeling session. I had one done for me, and a particular goddess came through, but also the plant kingdom, the flower kingdom came through. And don't ask me the details of all this stuff. I wasn't the one who was doing the channeling, but this is what came up for her, and it just kind of resonated with me. I've always loved flowers, to the point where when I was younger growing up, my mom actually, one of my gifts, I don't remember what it was for, but one year one of my gifts was she had an artist come and paint flowers on one of my walls in my bedroom, and it had this whole secret garden vibe to it. And when I was a little girl, I remember I actually did have a secret garden themed birthday party. I think it was my 8th birthday. And specifically the floral kingdom came through in this channeling session. And I even found a natural non-toxic scent that is very high vibe. It comes with rose quartz, but is based in rose and hibiscus are the main. I don't know a lot about perfume or fragrance, what they call them, like the two main notes, scents, something like that. And hibiscus is my other favorite flower. So I honestly, rose never popped out as my favorite flower. I wouldn't ever really honestly have said rose is my favorite, but it's been kind of a theme in my life, and they do smell amazing. They smell quite divine, in my opinion. So I went to the store today because the rose has been coming up, and one of the things was bring more flowers, bring more of that into your life. And so I've been trying to do that in every way, and I wound up having a giant bouquet of pale pink roses in my house, in my apartment last weekend, out of the blue, or maybe it was the weekend, I don't know, it was recently, and it was after that session, and just a couple days after, we wound up with this beautiful big bouquet of flowers just by chance. And I was walking off the beach on Monday evening, and I find a rose in my path, and I pick it up and I place it on a pile of books. And when I get home, and they were books that I had purchased based on that session to help me go deeper into the meaning of all of these things that came up, to help me understand, to help me on my own journey and spiritual growth and personal growth and all of that. So I placed this flower, this rose, on the pile of books. And earlier that afternoon, I'd watched an interview with somebody who really deeply resonated with me. And I was like, oh, I should get that book because it sounds exactly aligned with what I'm diving into right now. And later that evening, I'm about to pull open my phone to get that book, and I look over, the book is already in the pile of books that I had just purchased. Now, it might seem a little strange that I purchased books without knowing what they were, but I was purchasing based on the subject matter and what the content was. So it was just one of those synchronicities, signs literally sitting on top of signs. So I was like, okay, moving that book to the top of the pile now, because I was definitely getting these signs from the universe that this is something that I need to dive deeper into. So I have been just tuning in and listening and paying attention to the signs, and it's partially a matter of recognizing the signs when they do come. It's partially a matter of trusting them and then actually following them. So I wanted to get into that a little bit more. Like, how do you recognize them in the first place? How do you trust them? How do you then act on the signs? Like, what is all of that about? And so as far as recognizing them goes, it's a personal thing. It really is. Signs that come up may be meaningful to you alone, and typically that's how it works, although there are certain images and animals and flowers, for example, that serve as symbols in a more universal way. I'm not the only, this rose thing is a symbol for a particular, I don't know the exact word to put on it, but this particular teaching in, it's like a spirituality type teaching, based in like feminine and stuff like that. I'll get into all of that in future stuff. That's, it's deep, it goes deep, and it's really fascinating. So it is going to be personal, but the recognizing piece comes into play when it comes to you wanting a sign, or sometimes it's if you're at a crossroads in your life, the universe will give you signs. Even if you're not consciously asking, which is something you can do, but even if you're not actually consciously looking for it, the universe will often deliver signs to nudge you forward on that path. And it's usually something that is aligned with your actual purpose or calling, or what's in your soul's best interest or whatever. It's helping to open up your life and expand you into something more, some new possibility, some new potential, some area for growth. I remember I got a lot of signs when I was going to India to follow the yoga path, and so I did my first yoga teacher training. I was getting a lot of signs, affirmative signs when I was going to grad school. So these things have come up in my life a lot, and even moving down to Miami, lots of signs affirming that this was the right move for me, and more lately I've been like, yes, this is where I meant to be, at least for now. And lately I've just been getting more and more. So it's quite fascinating once you actually really start to tune in and pay attention, not just the big life things, but little things here and there, little synchronicities. Pay attention to those because they do mean something and they are leading you in the right direction. And if you ask for a particular sign, which is something that you can do, you can say, like, okay, dear universe, like a little prayer type thing if you want, or just a request if you want to put it that way. Please show me XYZ if this is the right thing for me, if this is the path I'm supposed to go on right now, if this is the choice I'm supposed to make, whatever it is in your life that you're asking a sign for, a new job, a new partner, or maybe leaving a job or leaving a partner. These are difficult life decisions. So sometimes we appreciate a little confirmation from the universe when we are making massive life decisions, and all the things that I just mentioned were pretty big life decisions for me. So it was reassuring, if nothing else, to get these quote unquote signs. So recognizing them, and it can be in the form of a flower, an animal, just a symbol, or numbers, repeated numbers on a clock, for example, and they may be meaningful to you now already. They may not, they may be related somehow to the question or the decision that you're trying to make. So just pay attention, and that requires like tuning in as well. So in order to trust the sign, you have to tune in and notice whether it feels good. If it's kind of a more random thing, if you're not specifically requesting it, if you see something that kind of catches your attention and you're like, oh, that was kind of strange, like what is that about? Tune in and question, okay, was that a good weird or a bad weird? Is that your intuition saying yes, or your intuition saying, oh no, back off? I've had both. So tune in and question whether it's aligned for you and whether it feels good. If it brings you a spark of joy, when I found the rose the other day, I was like, oh, and so I picked it up. I almost walked right by it, but then I was like, no, I'm gonna pick up this rose, and then placing it on that pile of books opened up this whole other avenue of inquiry for me. So, and it definitely feels aligned right now. So again, it's trust the signs as they do show up, but how to trust is to feel in and tune in with yourself. How does it feel to see that sign? How does it feel to step in, or take one step closer toward that thing that you want, that desire that you have? And if it feels good, you may get a little bit of a niggle, because change is always scary for us because we like certainty, and that's just not the way life goes though. So what we want to do is tune in and take a step in the direction that is aligned for us. It requires tuning in. So taking that next aligned step, that next aligned action is one of the hardest things to do, because often it requires us shedding what's no longer working for us, taking a step away from our comfort zone, stepping outside of that comfort zone, and possibly even completely upending our lives, leaving a job, making new friends, creating firmer boundaries with people in our lives that we know have, they've been a part of our lives for a long time, but we know that they're actually not supporting our growth or the direction that we are meant to be going on right now, the path that we're on. So that's really tricky, and it's something that I've struggled with for sure. But I've always just come back to, okay, what is good for me? Or that's what I'm doing more and more and more now. What is good for me right now in this moment? Is it expansive? Is it constrictive? So taking that next aligned step, taking one little baby step, one little action toward that goal. Maybe it means emailing somebody, or texting, or calling, or applying for that job. Anything. It could be drastic, like moving to a new city, like I've done. So, or getting that book. It just doesn't have to be a big thing, but it can be the next step on your journey that leads you to the next step, and all of those steps combined bring you into something that's amazing. And when you look back 6 months, a year in the past, you're like, oh my gosh, the way that everything has lined up for me has been astonishingly perfect. And that's how I this year has been like that for me. It hasn't been all smooth, but honestly, each month has been getting better and better, and I feel way more grounded, way more aligned than I ever have in my life. And for this year, for 2020, to be able to say that, I'm like, okay, I'm doing something right now, and I'm going with it, because many people are experiencing quite the opposite. And that's why I'm so grateful that I said yes all of these times to all of these signs that came up, because it has led me to this place of feeling extremely grounded, extremely aligned, and really the best I've ever felt in my life. In a time of external chaos for most people. Because I've been tuning in, and my intuition, trusting my gut, trusting the signs, trusting that the universe has got my back, has brought me here to this place of feeling fully supported and fully in tune and aligned with my higher purpose and my soul, if you want to put it that way. And it has been a journey. I'm not saying it's easy, but right now the timelines they're being sped up right now for all of us to wake up, to grow, and to shed what's no longer working for us, because clearly there is a lot that's not working for us at a societal level. But society begins with, if we want to see change without, we have to change within. So we have to each personally do the work and figure out what it is that lights us up, that brings us joy, and what our purpose is, what we are meant to do, how we are meant to serve. And all of us collectively doing that work, we're going to create a much different reality than we're currently experiencing, a much more beautiful reality than what has been created up until now. And everything has been serving our evolution and our growth, and it's like this, it's going in an upward spiral. So there's no room for regret, there's no room for guilt or shame or anything like that. So if you haven't, been trusting your gut, following the signs, so on and so forth up until now is the best time to start to say yes. It's all been perfect. It's all been serving you to be where you are right now. So just pay attention, tune in, trust your gut, and figure out what is aligned for you, because nobody else can answer that for you. We are all here for our unique journeys and our unique purposes. So it is a matter of really tuning in, and so many of us have been blocked off from that. And it's also a matter of dropping from the brain and into the heart. That's been one of my biggest journeys in this lifetime, because I was super intellectual, super analytical, and that served me really well for the first chunk of my life. And I did have moments where I trusted my intuition, but there were plenty of moments where I said no. I turned down the dial of my, soul calling, if you want to put it that way. And I did the logical thing. I made the safe, secure choice, and that didn't serve me. Like, I wound up getting cancer, and there's a lot of reasons, I'm sure, for that. But for me, I felt like I intuitively knew immediately it wasn't the end for me. It was a wake-up call. And that brought me on this journey of going deeper and deeper and deeper as I was ready for it. I wasn't ready to dive in head first, but I'd had little inklings along the way that where I am now, I have had a lot of the training I needed to be able to integrate everything. But coming back into the heart, which is really, it's our heart intelligence. The heart actually sends more signals to the brain than the brain sends to the heart, interestingly. But we've learned to prioritize, we're being conditioned to prioritize brain rationality and mental logic. And it's served us very well in a lot of ways, but we need to combine the two, and we need to prioritize dropping back into our heart, into our soul wisdom, into the seat of our intuition, yeah, our heart wisdom is actually far more intelligent than we give it credit for. So it's a matter of dropping into that space and using our brain to support that. It's not brain first, heart second, it's the opposite. So it's a journey for so many of us, and I think this is our collective lesson right now, to stop over-analyzing and to tune in with our intuition, with our gut, what our soul knows to be true, because there's a lot of craziness going on right now, and individually we need to tune in and figure out what feels right, and then we can collectively come together to create something that is working for all of us. So I wound up talking a lot, of course, I always do, but I really feel like this is an important topic and something that's been coming up for me, so it means that it's something that I should be sharing, because that's how this all works. So I really wanted to elaborate on that and just encourage you to tune in and question for yourself, what does an aligned life look like for me? What does it feel like? And that's the biggest thing. Step into the feeling and tune in to the feelings that you're experiencing. Allow yourself to feel. And if it's feelings that don't feel so good, that's actually, if you get quote unquote triggered, that's a good thing. Trust me, I've been triggered I should probably talk about that next. I've been triggered a lot, even just this week, even just yesterday. And it's something that I'm like, oh, interesting. Why did that trigger me? Because it's something to get curious about so that we can process it and release it. So many of our triggers are from repressed, or not, if not all, are from repressed, suppressed emotions and feelings that we never allowed ourselves to feel. So something small and insignificant triggers this really deep reaction, and we're like, where did that come from? And it's actually something much deeper, much more profound, that reminded you, that the situation reminded you, and it was a much deeper issue than the surface level. You know, maybe somebody cut you off in traffic and it ruined your day. In reality, that kind of thing, that doesn't ruin your day. Let's be real. I mean, there are definitely people out there whose behavior I don't appreciate. So I'm not pretending like, you know, it's all on, but the point is, how are you reacting? And instead of reacting in a very heightened emotional way, choose to take a step back and figure out your response. This is really important when it comes to actual, like, relational communication in particular. We want to make sure we're coming from a place of conscious responding rather than reacting to the other person, because relationships at the end of the day are so fundamental to our quality of life. So, and this is actually something that I talked about in my course, in one of the modules, which is now finally being uploaded. Yay! I've had tech issue on top of tech issue, so it's been a journey for me, but here we are. It's really actually very close now, so in the next few days I'll probably be sharing more. Yay! So anyway, tune in and feel your emotions. It's not, we've been so deconditioned out of that, out of trusting our gut, out of feeling, that it's hard for a lot of people. So I'm, you know, with you on that, and I'm sending you a lot of love and compassion right now, because if you do choose to, it's always a choice. If you do choose to take these steps and to trust the signs, follow your gut, and pay attention to the signs that the universe is sending you, it's not always the easiest path, but it is extremely rewarding if you commit to it. So it's taking one step at a time and allowing yourself to trust and to feel into the possibility that may be waiting for you on the other side. It's like crossing a bridge, one step at a time. So I will leave you with that. I'm sending you so much love. This is quite a wild time, and it's an interesting weekend. We've got a full moon on Halloween tomorrow. I'm excited about that. I mean, I don't know. I'm just, gonna do Halloween things, I guess. But it's a time where we actually can tune in because, as some people say, the veil is thin. So it's a time where we can actually call on guidance and more directly and more clearly, and they will show up for us. So it is a great time to start tuning in a little bit more. And if that level of things calls to you, that's great. And if it's too woo-woo, totally get it. Maybe one day. And sorry. All right, that's a sign. That's time to wrap up. That was a call coming through. So anyway, again, sending you so much love, guys. This is Amanda Kelly with This Art Called Life. I will be sharing more about all of the things that have been coming up for me, triggers, how to handle them, etc. And also more details about my course, Rise with Resilience. I am so excited because actually, it's like finally here. Yes. All right. I'm going to sign off now, and I'll see you soon.